From the pasuk regarding a mitzoira, that it says as long as he has the tzaras, he is tomei and he has to sit himself outside the camp. The pasuk says michutz lamachane moishavoi. We learn that also the moishav, the place where a mitzoira dwells, the place where he is also tomei. Now, if a mitzoira goes into his friend's house, the Mishnah says that the kalim, the vessels in the house, become tomei immediately. On the other hand, Rabbi Yehuda argues and says, if he was there, so as long as it would take to light a candle, that's when the things in the house become tamei. If it's less than that, they don't become tamei. The Mefarshim explained that we're dealing with a case where he went into his friend's house without permission. If he went in with permission, so Rabbi Yehuda also agrees that the kalim became tamei right away because it's like his dwelling place. We're speaking about he went in without permission, so we're giving a certain amount of time for the balabayis to send him out. If the balabayis doesn't send him out, then it's considered that he granted him permission, and therefore it's like his own house, and therefore the things become tamei. So how long is the shiur? The shiur of lighting a candle. Because it's possible that maybe because the balabayis was busy with lighting his candle, that's why he didn't send him out. So we wait that amount of time. The Rebbe says that in Torah we know everything is accurate, everything is precise. So why specifically this shiur of lighting a candle? So the Rebbe quotes his father, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, who says as follows: Bayis is the level of Malchus. Generally, we say that the reason for the tumah of a mitzoira is because there's the removal of the oir, the light of Chochmah, not shining down into the Bayis, into the house. So therefore, as long as the balabayis is involved with lighting the candle, a candle also represents bringing down the light of Chochmah. So then there's no room for the tumah to spread because there's the light of Chochmah. Tzaras comes because of the lack of the light of Chochmah. Rabbi Levi Yitzchak explains, and the Rebbe brings that this is similar to the concept that we know that the tahara of the tzaras also comes through a kohen. Kohen is also the one that draws down the light of Chochmah. When there's the light of Chochmah, there's no room for tzaras. The Rebbe goes on and says that the Mefarshim explained that which lighting of a candle are we talking about? We're specifically speaking about the lighting of Shabbos candles. And this is why the balabayis can't interrupt the middle of the lighting of the candles to send this person out. So there's a certain shiur how long he would be involved with lighting the candles, because if it would be a regular candle, he could stop in the middle of lighting the candle. But because it's Shabbos candles, he's busy and he wouldn't stop. But from the Shabbos candle, we learned this shiur, the amount of time for any day of the week. Says the Rebbe, based on the beer that we said, that the lighting of the candle is what's not allowing the tumah to spread, we need to say that somehow this idea of stopping the tumah is mainly to do with Shabbos candles. How does this work? So the Rebbe says, our Mishnah is speaking about a situation, about not the tumah of tzaras itself, but the tumah that might spread into the house. And therefore it's so much connected with the lighting of Shabbos candles, because what's Shabbos candles about? Illuminating the house. As the Chazal tell us, that it's in order that a person shouldn't stumble over a piece of wood or a stone. That's what brings the peace into the house by lighting the Shabbos candle. In other words, the idea of the Shabbos candle is to ensure that there's no negative things happening in the house, and therefore it also causes in our context that the tumah shouldn't be able to spread. Now the Rebbe asks an interesting question. Seemingly this would be true regarding any candle. Not necessarily only a candle of a mitzvah. Any candle causes that you shouldn't trip and therefore brings peace in the house. Why do we say specifically the Shabbos candle? That's what stops the tumah from spreading. But the Rebbe says the truth of the matter is when we speak about other light, it's possible that not only doesn't it bring shalom, but sometimes it may even cause problems. Sometimes when you have light, you start noticing the problems of the other person. You start noticing his fault. It's specifically the ner mitzvah. Since the whole Torah is there to bring shalom, bring peace in the world, that's why it's ner mitzvah that actually will for sure bring to true shalom bayis. Now, why specifically are we relating this to the tumah of tzara? Seemingly this would be applicable to any sort of tumah. So simply you could say because tzaras comes as a result of lashon hara, which causes separation between people, and therefore the way to correct it is through the Shabbos candle, which brings shalom bayis. But to explain this in a little bit of a deeper way, al pi chassidus, the Rebbe brings a Maimon Chazal, a Gemara that says that someone that has the habit of lighting candles, will have children Talmidei Chachamim. Rashi explains that this is referring, because the pasuk says Ner Mitzvah v'Torah Oir. So when a person is involved regularly in Ner Mitzvah, the candles of Shabbos, of Chanukah, and so on, that brings the light of Torah that he has children Talmidei Chachamim, and sons-in-law Talmidei Chachamim. In other words, there's a special milah specifically with those mitzvahs that are connected with light in the simple and literal sense, although all mitzvahs are Ner Mitzvah. Because those mitzvahs that the light is in a physical sense, in a way that we could see it, they are the ones that are more impacting the Gashmiistic world. The Rebbe says this will also help us understand something about the Beis HaMikdash. It says that the Ner Ma'aravi, the miracle about how long the western lamp burnt in the menorah of the Beis HaMikdash, that was the testimony that the Shekhinah is amongst the Yidden. What about the rest of the miracles that happened in the Beis HaMikdash? But again, it's specifically when you have the godly light manifest also in a physical light, illuminating the Gashmiistic world, then it's much more of a testimony and connecting Elikus with the Gashmiistic world. Says the Rebbe, so now we can go back to the special advantage of lighting Shabbos candles, even though all of Torah is given to bring Shalom into the world. But again, that's going to be more Beruchnius, but it's a Neiru Shabbos Kodesh specifically that the Shalom, the peace, is expressed in the Shalom Bayis in the physical and literal sense. To explain this further, what does it mean when we say that the whole Torah brings peace into the world? Because the world is in truth one with Hashem. The only reality is godliness. But the world could seem to be something separate from Elikus. And this is where Torah and mitzvahs come in to show how everything is really connected to Hashem. We bring peace between Hashem, so to speak, and the world. But again, in Ner Shabbos and other mitzvahs, it's in a spiritual way. In Ner Shabbos, the light, the connection is happening in a much stronger way, in a much more open way. The Rebbe says we can now understand also why the Chazal used the expression that the Shabbos candles, you shouldn't trip on an eitz ve'evan, on wood and stone. Why is that? Because eitz and evan is also a remez to the concept of Avodah Zarah, where people were serving the stone and the wood and so on. Neir Shabbos Kodesh, the light that illuminates the world with godliness, is making sure that you won't stumble chas v'shalom in the inyan of Avodah Zarah. Says the Rebbe, now we can understand also the connection with Neir Shabbos Kodesh, specifically with this tumah of the Mitzorah that we were speaking about, because the tumah of Mitzorah, as we said before, is from the harshest tumahs, because of the Lashon Hara. Now, what does Lashon Hara do? The Rambam says a person first starts speaking against other people, and then Chas v'Shalom starts speaking against Hashem and denying Hashem. And therefore, in order to ensure that this sort of tumah of tzaras is not spreading, what do we need? We need the power of Neir Shabbos Kodesh, this bright light that's so strong that causes Shaloi Yikashli. You shouldn't trip on the stone, on the wood, on the inyanim of Avodah Zarah. Says the Rebbe, based on what we said before from Rabbi Levi Yitzchak, the Rebbe's father, that the lighting of the Shabbos candles has a similar impact, like the Tara that the Kohen causes. The Kohen causes that the Mitzorah becomes Tahir because of the light that he brings. So just like we understand that the Kohen is taken from the Tumah and making it now Tahir, in a similar way, the lighting of the candles in truth not only stops the Tumah, but even has the power to transform darkness into light. Especially the darkness of the Golos that will be transformed into light as a result of the lighting of Shabbos candles. The Rebbe says from here we understand how important it is that any girl that came to the age to understand what Shabbos candles is all about should start lighting Shabbos candles by herself. And the light that she causes, together with the bracha that she makes, will illuminate her life. That she will always remember that Hashem is the Melech Olam, the king over the world, and will establish her house on the foundations of Torah and mitzvahs. And the footnote that Rebbe says a very interesting thing, that even that applies to everyone, even people that weren't doing it till now. And the Rebbe says in the footnote that sometimes it happens that if the mother is not lighting, the girl definitely must light. But if all of her friends are not lighting, it's going to be harder for her. So that itself is another reason why everyone should be lighting, to ensure that in every scenario, in every case, the candles will be lit. Another point, says the Rebbe, why it's so important that every girl should light by herself. The Rebbe said, we mentioned earlier, that through Shabbos candles, was Zoiche, the children Talmidei Chachamim, sons-in-law Talmidei Chachamim. And the Rebbe says something very interesting. It used to be that the parents had the absolute decision about the child's shidduch. And therefore, what was mainly relevant was the schus of the mother. The mother lights Shabbos candles, that will be a good schus. That the child, the daughter, will get a chassan, that's a Talmud Chacham. But the Rebbe says, for whatever reason today, the main decision is actually by the daughter, the final decision. And therefore it's so important that she should have the schus of lighting Shabbos candles, and then she will have her husband a Talmud Chacham. And furthermore, the Rebbe says, We can only get older girls to start lighting Shabbos candles if they didn't start doing earlier. If they start doing it earlier, then they'll be more used to it, and then they'll be doing it every single Erev Shabbos, every single Erev Yom Tov, and then we're guaranteed that she herself will grow up with Torah, L'chupel Ma'asim Tovim, and also to get married to a Talmid Chacham.